This is my iPhone 4S tutorial on how to replace a faulty charging socket and microphone assembly.
This is the replacement part that we're going to install inside the phone. You see this is quite a large part. It includes the charging or docking port that the iPhone 4 and 4S has, and the microphone is this very small black part here. To do this, we're going to strip the actual phone down using a set of tools that you can pick up from any sort of iPhone repair website or eBay itself. This part that I'm going to use has cost me £3.49. I'll include a link to the person that supplied it because their service was out of this world. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the two pentalobe screws at the base of the iPhone. There's one here and there's one here. Here's the pentalobe screwdriver. So we simply once these two small screws are out, the first thing we do is turn the phone over and lightly slide the back upwards. If it's the first time you've taken the back off your phone, it might give some resistance, so just give it a little slide upwards until you can see a visible gap here between the back and the casing. It should then just lift forward and come off like so. You can now see the inside of your phone. It does look a little bit daunting the first time you open an iPhone, but trust me, it will all go back together nicely and all the parts come out quite easily. The part we're interested in is this ribbon cable here, which fits under the speaker enclosure here. Holding the battery label out of the way, we can see this small silver plate here and here. There's two screws holding this ribbon cable in that we need to protect. We're going to remove this now. It should now lift off. Easy as that. Put that to one side. This ribbon cable is literally pressed down on the phone. So taking your plastic tool, like so, you can literally lift onto the side and lift this off. Once this is off, gently remove the ribbon cable like so. If we look at the replacement part over here, it's essentially the same. To remove the battery, we need to remove the battery ribbon cable connector. To do this, we need to remove this Phillips screw here, this Phillips screw here, and this will allow us to prise the connector from the motherboard. Be careful when you remove the battery connector that you do not lose the aerial shielding part here. Use the plastic tool, prise this off the board like so. This is the aerial shielding part. This is the connector removed. You can also see underneath, this is the aerial here, and it's probably worth removing this from the board at this time. Just literally lift and pull away. Okay, now you're ready to remove the battery. So put the plastic tool underneath and lift. It may be stuck down, so it may be hard to get out the first time you remove it, but lift, move to the side, and your phone should now look like this. Some of the iPhone fixes in these videos show that you need to remove all the components from the phone and the screen to do this repair. I think this is unnecessary. I don't think you have to do this. I'm literally going to remove the speaker enclosure so we can get to the part we need to change. And that involves removing this small Phillips screw here onto the ribbon cable and this Phillips screw here. With the screws removed, you can gently remove this plastic enclosure which has the speaker and unpeel it and put that to one. The phone should now look like this. Okay, so we're going to remove this rubber grommet here from its hole, which is the microphone. We also need to gently prise this ribbon cable back out of its housing. Like so. So that's removed from its housing now. You see it's actually out of the ribbon cable hole. Just what we're going to do is remove these two small screws that are holding the power socket in, as like this. If you lift one end of the ribbon cable, you'll see that the entire enclosure will come away like so. So that is the actual part that we're replacing, that we have removed. This rubber grommet is what you'll need to remove from this assembly to put over the new microphone and the new piece before we put it back in the phone. Okay, we're now going to attempt reassembly. I find the best way to do this is with the ribbon cable loose, is just literally slide it into the connector until it makes a good seat. It goes in quite easily. So that's literally in place now. And we'll stick that down. Next thing we're going to do is secure the power socket using the two small screws. These look identical, but one does appear to be slightly bigger than the other, so make sure you get it the right way around. So the power socket is now securely connected. Make sure that the sticky parts of your connections of the ribbon cables that are underneath are all stuck down now to the board. So just push this down. There is sticky tape on the back of these cables, so if you push them down they will adhere to the case itself. Last thing we have to do is carefully get this rubber grommet back in the hole on the actual phone itself. It's a bit fiddly, but it will eventually go. So we've reattached the ribbon cable, the microphone's back in the hole, it's stuck down, it's reattached by the two screws, and this is all pushed down. The next thing we need to do is reinstall the speaker enclosure. This will also help push the ribbon cable down. All of these metal connectors along here are pushing against the edge of the case, so you literally push the top edge in first and it sits in place like so. You'll also notice the aerial cable is here. Be careful not to pinch this. At this stage, if you want, you can push this under that connection, like so. Push this back onto the board. Make sure you do push this back onto the board. It will just click into place. It's now back in. Tucking that cable up there nicely. It's out of the way. We now need to take the two screws that retain the speaker. One in this side. So the speaker is now attached. At this stage, we're going to put the battery back into position. So again, the battery goes back into its slot, like so. Now reattaching all the connections is slightly tricky, but make sure you put the aerial connector with the black side facing up into position first. I do this because it's easy to get it lined up at this stage. So make sure the screw hole is over the top and the shielding is over the top of the aerial, and then like to put it into place and click down. You'll feel it click into place when it's in position. Get the two Phillips screws that we took out initially. So come on in place, like so. And what you can do is make sure now with the sticky back of the ribbon cable is push this back down on top of the areas where the previous cable was until you feel this click into position. You may find a bit slack compared to the old cable, but just give it a push down, make sure it's all nice firmly attached. Take the ribbon cable cover, holding the battery label out of the way. Position this over the top, lining up the holes. Again, these seem to have two different size screws, so make sure you attach the right one to the right hole. There's one in place. This seems to be the fatter thread one goes on the outside, so this one goes in here on the outside. Holds that in place, otherwise it'll just spin. So that's it, essentially reassembled. Phone is all back together. All that remains is to get the rear of the case. Make sure this is all nicely tacked down. In position, like so. Slide the case back on. Turn it over, switch it on. There's the Apple sign. So while that's booting up, take your two pentalobe screws, do up the case. And we'll turn it back over. You can see the phone is all now back together. One thing I will say, if you have got a valid SIM card in the phone and it comes up saying search and find no network, the best thing to do, go into your settings, go into general, go down to reset and reset your network settings. Put your passcode in. Then this will reset everything to factory default, and it will also get your area working. If you remove the area from the motherboard, that is a tip I would recommend trying. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and give us some feedback, and thanks again.